Ready, set, go.
Yeah, whole team on a loose. Kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Yeah, ready, set, go.
Get into it like pronto. Get hit with a combo. Do it large, real jumbo. So dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater. Hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be her. And I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights. Mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Yeah, and you know I like big coupes. Two-seater with the missing roof. Run the meter to a can't move. I'm the best, got them all mute. Break the bank, talking big loot. Business talk, making big moves. Full tank, no I can't lose. Left them in the dust confused. All I ever did was break rules. Full throttle, I don't like cruise. Guess I got a couple screws loose. Son devil, I'm a damn fool. Ain't no telling what I might do. Taking off like a missile. Street marks, I'm official.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. Go. Ready, set, go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Carden Ellis, and today I am joined in studio by a group of new friends I'm excited to have here with us. We've got none other than Maddy Packer from the Sure Foundation herself with her bodyguard, her eternal companion bodyguard. None other than Adam, who is just making sure that the anti-Mormons don't get too cray-cray in the chat. All right. He will reach through YouTube in order to defend his beloved here. This is Maddy from the Sure Foundation, and today we're going to have a lot of fun. She's been in some hot water recently, standing up to some anti-Mormons, some toxic feminists, and we're going to talk about some of the recent controversies she has been embroiled in. And she's been gracious enough to agree to do also a little bit of an Ask Me Anything. So as long as it is germane to the conversation, I mean, it is kind of an Ask Me Anything. So, I mean, anything kind of means anything.
I guess I don't have to answer everything.
Yeah.
You can ask.
That's something I had not considered before. Yes, you can ask me anything and we'll take your money, but an answer anything, that's another question. No, that's funny. So, oh no, we got to have this turned on here. It can't be amateur hour. Are you kidding me? Now it's official that we're on air. So, anyway, we're going to have a little bit of an Ask Me Anything here and get to know you with none other than Maddy Packer from the Sure Foundation. I'm super excited for it. I'm here for it. Let's welcome a bunch of people into the chat. I see some familiar faces. First members to show up are Grork, Miss J94, Mary Lou Howarth. Good to see you, Mary Lou. As well as Alicia Brown. Good day, you all. So happy to see members joining us. If you guys want to contribute to this channel, please consider purchasing a membership to the Ward Radio Wigwam. It's a great way to support the channel and our mission statement while just paying a small subscription fee every month. I think you can get in for like $2.99 or $3.99 or something like that. It's pretty cool. So anyway, before we go any further, without any further ado, Maddy, introduce yourself. This is your first time in studio, am I correct?
Yeah, in studio. It's my first time.
How's it feel?
Pretty epic. This is like the famous Ward Radio studio, so I'm really lucky.
Is it everything you hoped it to be, or is it kind of disappointing? I always tell people, don't meet your heroes. I mean, meet your heroes, but just don't meet your heroes' studios.
No.
Like, you'll be like, this place is a mess.
No, it's impressive. I love it.
Okay, awesome. Sick. So tell us about yourself,
Yeah.
how you got into this, and why you're showing up on everybody's thumbnails. I can't think of a thumbnail as banal as this one that got you into so much trouble. It's this third one there on the right where you just doing a little heart pick in a nice long sleeve detailed sleeve shirt and mom jeans, like
Yeah, the mom jeans.
with a signature, I must
With
say
the
now,
hat.
signature Nike hat.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Are you sponsored?
No.
No, you're not. Okay,
That'd be
cool.
great,
I was
but-
about to say, there's a lot. I see a lot of Nike hats in your profile. I'm just wondering if this is like,
Sometimes I have my hair done.
if this is a
Okay.
thing, you know. So, okay, just who are you? How'd you get into this? What's the latest controversy?
Sure.
Go. The floor is yours.
I'm Maddy Packer. I'm 28. I'm married. I have a son, a 2-year-old son, and I'm pregnant with our second, due in July. So we're excited about that. I got into this. Honestly, I've kind of always had interest in apologetics. I didn't really know that that's what it was called or anything like this, but
Okay.
I went to school. I was like one of the only members in my community. I went to Catholic school growing up, 7th through 12th grade. So from a very young age, I've had to defend why I believe what I believe. I've had to engage in apologetics discourse with atheists, with Catholics, the whole slew of people that don't like Mormons. And I, as a mom, like in my adult life, I got off social media because it was actually causing me a lot of anxiety. It was like the comparison game. It was, I was just feeling like I was never good enough. So I actually swore off social media for over a year, and it was great. And I just felt the strongest prompting, just kind of randomly, like, you need to share your testimony. You need to start talking about those things that you were talking about growing up, that you contributed to in your younger years. And I was like, well, how do I do that? And then just kind of realizing that if you want to be part of that conversation, you have to do it online. And so I was like, okay, if this is what God is calling me to do, then I need to get over my fears, get back on social media, and be part of that conversation. So
Really? So apologetics made you decide to go back
yeah.
to social media?
Yes, it did. Watching you guys, Jacob Hansen, all the greats. Yeah.
The greats.
The greats. You guys are
Jacob
great.
Hansen,
Oh, yeah.
So, wow, this is interesting because there's so few girls that do this. Like, I'm excited to have you in the studio. I mean, I think it's great that you're excited to be here, but I'm excited to have you in the studio because, like, to a certain extent, it's almost like the girl that, like, is in the engineering class. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, sweet. Like, you do finance, right, Adam? Like, how were your finance classes? Was it a sausage party or what?
It was actually probably about 70-30. But yeah, for the most part, mostly men.
Drastically overrepresented by men. Yeah. I was a physics major my freshman year of college, and there was like 3 girls, I think, in the entire program. Yeah. And it was actually to the point of just being hilarious. Okay. So yeah, apologetics is very like male dominated. And so when all of a sudden you're exploding onto the scene with like thumbnails, they're like top 3 game changing doctrines, 3 unique doctrines of about women. And then, oh boy, treading in the very, very hot waters of peacemaking does not equal not offending. And is Trinity the litmus test? Right below going after Alyssa Grenfell's cult porn version of what Mormonism is like. You didn't just like ease into these waters.
Oh, no.
Like you just jumped right in.
I did. Well, it's funny because it's like a lot of these people, they've been doing what they're doing online for a long time. And even growing up in high school, I mean, there's always been voices like Mormon Stories and all this kind of stuff, Julie Hanks. And so it's not like I've never been exposed to these things before getting online. It's not like I've never heard these arguments. And I've had a lot to say about it. My husband would agree. I've had a lot to say about it for years and years and years. But, you know, no one's listening to me except my family, my husband, my dog, whatever. So getting online, I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to go for. I know exactly what I have to say. I've wanted to say it for years. And so hopefully someone listens to me.
So what is it that compels you? Is it just like, so for example, I remember when Donald Trump was first running for president, and this is an example I've made before. So if, chat, if you've heard this already, please forgive me. But like, I don't think you even had to be a fan of President Donald Trump to just feel this generalized irritation of misquotation.
Mm-hmm.
That like, oh, did you hear he said that there's very good Nazis everywhere?
Yeah.
And you just be like, well, okay, so like, I'm not even sure what his policy proposals are, right? You know what I'm saying? But I did watch that speech, and I don't own a MAGA hat. I haven't voted yet, even though there's early voting. But like, I know that's not what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this impulse to want to correct the record, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd find myself like, people would say, like, oh, what? Are you big MAGA? And it's like, I don't know, maybe. But like, I don't know what I am, but I know what I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not somebody who saw him say, there's very, very good Nazis everywhere pouring out of our ears in America. He actually was trying to contextualize the argument for or against Confederate statues, which, fine. I'm all about tearing all the Confederate relics down practically. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like, so actually I'm more on your side than I think even others are. But man, you're so psycho. I'm wondering if I'm on the right side,
Yeah.
So was it just this like desire to correct the record because you heard something being said about besmirched people, or is it just because like what compelled you to get into this?
Yeah. Well, it really does go back to my years in middle school and high school, because the atmosphere I was in was one where, I don't know if you haven't noticed by now, leftism is very much religious, and the way people talk about it and espouse it in every aspect of life is very much kind of like how religious people do it with their beliefs. So growing up with my peers mostly being progressive, liberal, left-leaning, even at Catholic school, and some of my teachers too, I was just kind of thrown into this world where we share our opinions about everything all the time on every issue. And so I felt like I needed to quickly learn what I believed, because I had been accused of, you're just saying what your dad's telling you to say. You're just saying what you grew up listening to. You don't actually have your own opinions. You don't actually believe all that. That's just how you were raised. You're just brainwashed to believe this or whatever. And that ticked me off. And I was like, excuse me, maybe that's true right now when I'm 12 years old. But I was committed to having reasons why I believed those things or not, whether I, was actually the one who was going to stand behind what I was saying. So from a young age, I was just kind of like thrown into this world of, we share our opinions, especially strong opinions. And, I felt like, instead of conforming, it's really easy to say what people around you are saying and kind of go with the flow. And I realized that if I valued truth, like if I wanted to say what was actually true and what I actually believed, then I needed to be willing to say it even at the expense of being unpopular. And so just kind of that practice growing up, doing that a lot, it just kind of hardened me, I guess, to that.
That is so interesting to hear. Okay, so you feel compelled to do this, but also surrounded by people that maybe just have an incorrect view of your belief system. You're like, okay, hey, this is getting misrepresented. You decide to jump in. I'm kind of curious about how, so you went to Catholic school, but you actually felt that you were fielding more left-leaning, socially progressive?
Yes.
Because usually those are mutually exclusive. Like, usually people send their parents to Catholic school to try and escape the secularism.
I don't know. This was in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The city different, it's called. It's kind of like a mini Portland, honestly, just at least politically. So that was just a very heavy influence there. It didn't matter what religion you were. You didn't have to be Catholic, obviously, to go to this school. And I had teachers that espoused left-leaning ideology. And so for me, it was political and religious at the same time, all of that kind of intertwined. Because it's a private school, you could talk about these things openly. You could talk about God. Is he real? Is he not real? You could talk about abortion and theology and how that plays into abortion. And we talked about gay rights and gay marriage because these all have to do with theological, moral questions. And so I was engaged in these type of conversations at like 12 years old. So... Yeah, dude.
Well, first off, it was probably around 12 years old that I started really testing a lot of my theories of what my beliefs is. Actually, it was long before that, but I think that's when I first was able to start testing them in public against other people's ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as young as 8 years old wondering, like, does the plan of all salvation actually include everybody? Well, what if they were born before Christ? Or, oh, what if they were,
Mm-hmm.
and so I remember challenging my faith at a very young age, but you're not really able to challenge it against the faith or the ideas of others until, you're about 12 or 13 years old. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really interesting to me, though, that you felt like, so it wasn't just a thought experiment. You felt like a lot of your teachers were actually espousing the more socially progressive views.
Yeah, a lot of them. Honestly, my most conservative teachers were my Catholic theology teachers, the teachers that you actually went to theology class with. They were the ones that were more Catholic, more conservative, obviously, because they're teaching Catholic doctrine and Catholic theology. So I feel like I had more theological debates, you would say, maybe, LDS claims versus Catholic claims with my teachers, not necessarily my peers. I did have some Christian Catholic peers, but I wouldn't say it was like they had a knowledge enough that we could have theological
Okay, so I
conversation.
got a question for you,
Yeah.
but first I do have to jam in and put first super chat of the day up on the screen. This comes from Gork. Thank you very much for the generous super chat, my man. He says, the greatest blessings come... Oh, I almost messed that one up. Sorry, it's amateur hour here. He says, the greatest blessing of growing up in Colorado is being told I was going to hell every day at school. Had to learn to defend my beliefs. Wow. So, Gork, you have to tell us, were you surrounded by, it sounds like evangelicals from the Master's College? Like I grew up with doing the exact same thing. I will never forget the part of the quad that I would sit in, and then they would just come and then just like encircle me. And then like every day it was new questions like, did you know Joseph Smith was convicted of treasure cheating? Did you know? And I was like 13, 14 years old on the JV soccer team. Like that was my memory of JV soccer was just going to practice. And then if we won, just being peppered for my belief on the way back, you know, and we won a lot, fortunately. So I was peppered a lot, but that's funny. Thank you, Grork. It wasn't really that much of a question, just a mutual statement of,
Feel that.
of, camaraderie amongst those of us that were surrounded by others for our beliefs. So anyway, you go to Catholic school, you feel like, okay, you got to start defending, you kind of want to correct the record. You got kind of baptized by fire. Like your account kind of blew up harder and faster. And I swear you're almost as big as ours is now. And you've like been around here for 6 weeks and I've been around for like 6 years. So what got you in hot water the fastest and the first? And did it surprise you? What were your reactions to that? Floor is yours.
I mean, the first thing that probably got a lot of attention was my first reel about ex-Mormons and kind of where they're coming from as far as understanding, theological claims or cultural issues. Just kind of like trying to explain, like, before you listen to what they have to say, let's talk about a few things. And I think the thing that I said in there the most was just, it's not like a lot of people that leave the church, they think that they have unlocked some type of knowledge or information that was previously unbeknownst to others, or like they've stumbled across something that is so eye-opening.
Some like
that
hidden gnosis.
It's almost like, and I understand now, and these people don't understand it, and so for me, I said something along the lines of like, it's not true. What happens is two people can analyze the same data and come to two different conclusions about it. It doesn't mean that necessarily one's right or wrong. Obviously, we would claim we're right, but that's another, debate. And so just kind of explaining, like, you might think that, wearing garments is controlling or oppressive. My conclusion is that it's empowering and lets me have a closer relationship to God. That's my conclusion versus your conclusion.
Okay, so now I'm going to dive in with my Ask Me Anything.
Okay.
What makes you... actually, I don't want to say what makes you feel that, because I get we come from kind of like a sterilized Protestant background that's very nix on what some might call Catholic richness, others might call esotericism. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is very unique in the sense that we wholeheartedly embrace religious ritual and relics and cool stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Which for others that aren't used to that might be perceived as a little bit jarring. Okay. So I went into the temple already having made up my mind about the acceptability or not acceptability of the temple experience. I actually didn't know exactly what it was. I actually kind of preserved myself from a lot of the, I don't want to say the information, but like my friends that had gone through the temple first when I was at BYU said, like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, some people say it's really weird, but it's actually really not that weird. I had other people say, oh, it was an amazing experience. And my dad was really funny. He's like, well, if you actually want to watch it, it's all on the internet anyway. You know what I said? Like,
gosh.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. And so I remember just being like, I don't want to do that because there's part of me that thought that was like kind of like cheating.
Yeah.
So I specifically didn't do that. I just waited for it to happen in real time. But I remember knowing, like, my parents wore garments. I knew garments were like a thing, and that the budding anti-Mormon criticisms back then were against garments. But I remember thinking, like, well, wait a second. Like, almost all of religious history has engaged in religious ritual and religious apparel, except for this small sliver of time in America.
Yeah,
where our foundational religions, Quakerism, Puritanism, Protestantism, were a little bit more bereft of these things. And so it's really only in the short 200 or 300 year period in modern American history where you have a massive economically prosperous society that actually does not engage in religious ritual. So we're Mormons aren't the weirdos.
No.
It's actually that the sterilized society I live in are the weirdos. And by me engaging in a ritualistic ceremony in a temple in order to join my peers and fellow believers, well, that's all the Romans did. That's all the Greeks did. That's all that the ancient Chinese did. That's all that the ancient X anything did. So this is actually a very normal experience to do the weird temple thing. So I was kind of like, frankly, it could have been weirder and I still would have been like, all right, let's go for it. So what makes you say, like, so even though I was like prepared for garments, I don't like them. It's not like sometimes when I hear women like you say like, oh no, I love this. It gets me closer to God. It's a reminder of this. To me, I'm just like, this is the crap that I do just so like I'm compliant and God views me as obedient and I hope it works. Because I live in California, and a summer day, I'd love maybe just a regular, like, I at best, I view it as neutral. Okay. At worst, I view it as a religious thing I comply with in order to be a team player with the faith that I love. Same with all of the smells and bells of the temple and everything. The endowment ceremony is so boring to me. It's so freaking boring, and it's been neutered for the feminists. So it doesn't have half of it. It doesn't have half of the depth that it used to have. And I just kind of go through it, and this is a bad attitude. I get it. It's a bad attitude. Maybe God has not touched my heart yet. Okay, and it needs to be touched. But like, I kind of view that as, I don't want to say the crap because that's a pejorative term, but it's the part of the ceremony I put up with and deal with so I can then enjoy the peace of the celestial room. Because the only real excuse that you have to be able to go and meditate and be at peace in the celestial room is because, hey, we just did the endowment ceremony. Now I'm going to sit in here. I'm going to read my scriptures for a while. I'm going to, think about life for a while. I'm going to spiritually reset for a while. So like, I wouldn't say I dislike it, but I definitely don't like it. I just think, as Michael Mairano says, just such a beautiful quote from 2 live streams ago. He said, "The language of God is silence and everything else is a mistranslation." Maybe that's why my heart loves being in the Celestial Room so much, is because you really get that silence there. Mm-hmm. You can be in the middle of the heart of Los Angeles and it's still just stillness. It's amazing. But you kind of got to put up with just cringy videos and docents pointing you in the wrong direction half the time.
Oh
and
my
an
gosh.
overstaffed temple.
I can't believe you're saying this right now.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm just kidding.
So it's I don't know. Maybe that's just me and my bad attitude, which I fully embrace. Might be my bad attitude. But what makes you say that so here I am saying with less restrictive garments, here I am as a dude who's got it easy with the t-shirts and the boxers, right? So here I am saying I put up with it. What makes you go out of your way to say I actually like it? Because that's a minority opinion amongst most LDS women in North America, I think. I think most LDS women are actually kind of with me in the sense of, look, I'm Mormon, I put up with it. I'd love to be able to just have a little bit more autonomy over what I get to wear instead of some of these decisions getting made for me by...
The word autonomy, that is a trigger word.
Okay, hit me. Ugh. You know what I'm asking. Just hit me.
I mean, I totally understand that point of view with anything that we do religiously. And some things they kind of just, feel like we go through the motion to check something off a list. For me, I feel like the beauty of the gospel and then everything that the restored gospel offers came from my realization of, seeing what is, some people think this is a prideful thing to say, imagine your life or the world without the restored gospel, without the restored truth. I think a lot of times in our Mormon bubbles we find ourselves in, we take a lot of the things that we know are true for granted, or that of course everyone knows this. Of course everyone knows Jesus is separate from God. Of course we all know that God created the universe out of material. That's just, it's we don't actually sit and ponder about what the implications of these extremely profound, significant theological positions are, and how lucky we are that they were restored, and we don't understand what it was like or how you view the world if those were not there. So for me, the temple and wearing temple garments, it's okay, sure, if we're talking about the utilitarian nature of garments, it's it's extra clothes. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's humid, sometimes you see lines through your clothes, whatever. But for me, it's the beauty of what it's offering me. I never want to take that for granted. It's a privilege. I am extremely blessed and lucky to have that in my life, that we were able to receive covenants that were restored through priesthood power. Those are just things that we shouldn't take lightly, that we're able to participate in.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm curious. Now that you did this whole at 12 years old, I realized that I have to be able to defend my own beliefs and everything like that, because Mormon beliefs are different than the mainstream Catholic and Protestant ones oftentimes, or actually eerily reminiscent of many ancient Catholic and early Christian beliefs. What are, just rapid fire, what are the top 3 profound Mormon doctrines that you feel solidified you in the camp of Mormonism, so much so that you would become an apologist for it, that you discovered in this little 12-year-old walkabout? I doubt you were thinking of consubstantiation and the hypostatic union when you were 12, or were you?
I was.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Come on.
Overachiever Maddy Packer.
I mean, maybe that was more 14. I don't know. Whatever theology class I had that year, what we were talking about. But I would say, I think the nature of God is probably number 1, and I think that's why it was the first restored truth in the first vision. Joseph Smith realizes the nature of God, and that there's 2 beings, and that they are humanoid. They're not just these immaterial blobs of mass, and that they have bodies, and that they were two different people. That totally throws the Trinity and the understanding of God completely out the window. And I feel like that's really where the crux of a lot of these theological issues stem from in mainstream Christianity, is this failure to understand the true nature of God. So that's a big one. I mean, because that means we don't understand ourselves, frankly, if we don't understand who God is.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that if I were Satan, what would I come after first?
Yeah.
I would come after the very nature of God. And it's so interesting that the very nature of God were like the first theological wars ever fought.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the first through third
centuries. Those were like the most, the biggest like controversies had to do with who is Jesus. Like, he only died a couple hundred years ago and we don't remember who he is. And yeah.
Okay, so what do you think are the Mormon doctrines that are the strongest?
So I would say our understanding of the nature of God, and that we are not different from him in the sense of we have the same nature as he does. That changes everything for what our entire purpose is.
What do you mean by that? Like, we have the same nature?
We have the potential to become like him, not just symbolically, but literally.
Okay, so you mean like the apotheosis? Because, like, for example, something I've never gotten over is like it's Mormon doctrine that he has a body of flesh and bone.
Yeah, big deal. Like, that's a huge deal. That changes so much. Like, and I think we just take it for granted.
Well, where'd the blood go? And why is it flesh and bone and not flesh and blood? You know what I'm saying? Like, what that? I like. It's always kind of like, you know. But I do respect the idea that, okay, well, this is superior because I one of the first theological, I wouldn't say arguments, but deep discussions that I could tell were a little accusatory in nature. Okay, that I had with some of my friends about Mormon belief was about apotheosis, like this idea that like men could become gods. Isn't that blasphemous? And I just remember thinking, like, I don't think it's blasphemous that like my future son could become like me. Like, it's kind of weird thinking I might be able to become like my dad, because your dad as a young man, Adam can probably vouch for me on this one. But I heard a quote that your father is your first hero. Like, when I was a kid, like,
very true, very, very true.
Yeah, I thought my dad knew how to do everything. Like, I literally thought my dad knew how to do everything. Like, if there was something that had to get done, like, my dad knows how to do it. If there's a situation that needs to be handled, he like knows how to handle it the adult way, which is like the real way. And, you know, now that I'm in my 30s and 40s, I'm looking back, I'm like, dude, that dude was winging it just as hard as I'm winging it. You know, like, so, like, he was probably guessing, man, the times he was yelling on the phone, man, that bro was just angry. You know, like, it's just like, and I love my father, but I'm able to look back and say, like, oh, you know, he was just winging it as badly as I am, right? So, like, there's some things about, like, if I were Satan, I would totally attack the nature of God first, right? Mm-hmm. What from an apologetic standpoint, I wonder, like, why you would choose that one first, or like, okay, anyway, in that first conversation that I had, where it's kind of like a little bit of a theological debate, I remember them challenging the idea that, oh, well, Mormons believe we can come like him. And I remember thinking, like, okay, well, it doesn't not make sense that my future son, because I didn't have a son back then, my future son could like become like me. It's kind of weird thinking I could become like my dad, because I think he was like Superman. But, you know, at the end of the day, isn't that kind of like the natural process? Like, that just seems like natural law, that the son would become like the father, and that father would then have a new son, and that son would become like the father. Like, that just like
makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to make sense. And I remember turning it on them and saying, well, what do you think we do? And I remember it was a girl, actually, who was gorgeous, and I found out later had a crush on me. So, like, missed that boat. You know, 14-year-old me was kind of stupid. I was like so oblivious until I was like in my 20s. It's absurd. But I remember her saying, "We'll sing praises to God." And I've heard that echoed. Like, okay, I was in show choir. I love a solid performance. I can even do musical theater for 30 minutes straight. I'm one step away from a gay guy in Glee, right? You get me in that sequined vest with the brooch. I have some of the most embarrassing show choir photos you could ever imagine. But at the end of the day, after 90 minutes, it'd get old. 120 minutes, I might need a rest. A day of that, count me out. in eternity, okay, is this heaven or is this hell? Like, and I just remember feeling like, okay, it can't be that we're just sitting there singing. Even if we were in some deified state and we actually enjoyed it, like that just, I don't know, that does not ring true, and it doesn't hit my natural core that does produce so many good inspirations for me, as much as this idea of like apotheosis, okay? And also it's like, why am I getting punished for just answering a question? Like my belief system just has more details of the afterlife, whereas like yours doesn't, and I'm getting punished for just having more answers. You know, when Joseph Smith says like, oh, the same sociability that existed on earth will exist in the afterlife, and all these other super interesting details, like, oh, there's 3 degrees of glory, which like totally makes sense, instead of like, oh, this person got a 51 on the exam. So they made it into heaven, into the exact same part of heaven as Gandhi.
Yeah.
You know, like Gandhi, who got like 99.5 on the test. He's in the exact same heaven as Tony the plumber, who, like, you know, his 3rd marriage was all right. And, you know, like, he started paying tithing in his 50s. And, you know, he, like, you know, apologized to the kids he bullied in high school at the 40th reunion. You know, like, is that guy really in the same heaven as Mahatma Gandhi? Like, that's just like, it doesn't ring true, right? And then so when you tell me like, okay, well, what's your better version of heaven, right? Oh, just eternal chorus. I just remember thinking like, wait, no, you're mad at me? You know, I don't know that. So you say the number one of the top 3 things is apotheosis.
Well, yeah, just understanding our true nature, because if you don't understand the actual truth of who God is, then we can't really understand who we really are.
Okay.
They go together.
Okay, cool. Then we got a couple of super chats here for you. Hey, what do you know? When you haven't asked me anything, people actually start asking you things. What do you know? So anyway, here we go. Mary Lou Hoer says, Carden, you have to want to have a testimony of the temple and the covenants we make. Maybe when you're in the celestial room, pray and ask for an understanding of the ceremony. First off, you're right, Mary Lou. Also, that does seem like a recipe for Stockholm Syndrome. But no, totally just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. Mary Lou is an amazing contributor to the Ward Radio Wigwam, and you're right. You have to love the concept of marriage before God is going to present you to somebody who will be marriage material. It's actually something Ben Shapiro said that was very interesting, that I think is very true. But sometimes you have to want to believe before you can believe, and sometimes you have to believe before you can know. So, yes, I fully, as stated earlier, I recognize this is probably a bad attitude of mine, Mary Lou, but baby steps, and I'm inspired by your super chat. However, I think there's a lot of people that agree with me. Justice GC says hello. And, any comments on that super chat before we continue? Maddy?
Yes. I mean, always pray to have, more light and knowledge and inspiration come to you about things. And the temple's great. We're just kind of a desensitized to spirituality culture that we don't appreciate beauty when it's right in front of us sometimes.
Okay, word. Okay, Chris Barees something, can't see it all, but he says, give us those embarrassing photos in the Discord, Carden, and welcome to the Wigwam, Miss Packer. We will watch your career with great interest.
Ooh, thank
nice
you.
Phantom Menace reference there.
Wait, really?
Oh, did I miss that?
It's
Do tell.
It's Palpatine talking to young Anakin. We'll watch your career with great interest.
Oh, thank you, Adam, for
Yeah,
letting us all
If I'm
know.
going to add anything to this conversation,
You were
it's gonna
worried
be
about
the
he was going to say
Phantom-
before the lights went on. And
It's
now
going to
he
be the
was.
Phantom Menace
Now-
reference call out.
Sweet.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm like a Padawan then, right?
Is that how it works, bro?
I mean,
Is
yeah.
that-
If
I watched the
you're-
good Star Wars from the 70s and the 80s, not the bad Star Wars
I
from
mean,
the
yeah,
early
if
2000s.
we're just going to draw the whole metaphor here, we'll just say the Exmos are the Sith. You've been prophesied to destroy them. We're
yeah,
just
but
going
then
to
I
watch
turn
your
into
career
Darth
with great
Vader,
interest.
and I turn into Darth Vader. So don't go down that road.
Well,
Hey.
we'll just skip those videos in the
Oh,
trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is somewhere where Disney's going woke cost them.
Yes.
Star Wars?
Disney's, oh yeah.
Oh,
Disney's
yeah.
going woke
Lost
cost them
millions
because
of
they also overlooked a character. My mind is blown that they didn't make a gorgeous female Darth Vader.
Oh.
Like just what's a classy, elegant name that could sound Star Warsy? What your real name's Madeline, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's a Madavich, Madavice, Madam Vice, Darth Madam Vice.
Oh wow!
All right,
there
you
we
know,
go.
You have to
Like-
trademark that immediately.
yeah, exactly. So like the fact that Disney just didn't make, just didn't get like Gisele Bündchen, you know, instead of making the purple hair like lesbian gender studies professor that like flies the Star Destroyer unbelievably through. Oh yeah, I bet you all those super masculine pilots, like whatever his name was, that Oscar Isaac plays. Yeah, they're all
Oh.
just deferring to this like
Yeah.
bohemian dressed gender studies major, and yeah, I'm sure she rallied the troops.
Oh,
You know what I'm
gosh.
saying? They were ready to go up against Darth whatever because of her, which most
right.
unbelievable character in the planet, right? But imagine if like there was just a beautiful, almost like a Greek succubus character, like just get like Alessandra Ambrosio or something like that with a lightsaber and just like this
Oh my
leather
gosh.
bodysuit and a cape, and she's just like gorgeous, like you can only see her eyes behind the Darth thing, you know what
Oh
I'm
my
saying?
gosh.
With like hyper feminine but just like hyper lethal, like Scarlett Johansson in like Black Widow or something. You would sell more figurines and Halloween costumes to girls and
That's true.
and do more to make Star Wars accessible to females by having just this BA Darth something female instead of like, I don't know a single chick that dressed like the lesbian gender studies purple haired major. I know a million girls in junior high that would have been Darth. What do we call her again?
Darth
I
Mad
don't
Vice
know.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, Darth
like any of
Madavice
this.
or
Darth
whatever.
Madavice, that's it.
Okay, yeah. So they missed the boat on that. They absolutely missed the boat. Okay, here we got more super chats coming in. We gotta follow these.
Yeah, we got it.
Thanks
End
for my
the
rant.
Star Wars chat.
Giving those embarrassing photos in the Discord card, and welcome to Wigwam, Miss Packer. Dude, we'll try and get you those photos. Dude, they are bad. They are. And dude, the hair. I had a shaved head. It was 5 on top, 1 on the side, faded. Yeah,
Nice.
dude, I had that for like a decade, all the way into like my mission in college. It was bad.
That's funny.
But anyway, here we go. Big B777 says, been listening for 6 months now. Plus, I'm inspired to put out similar content. Keep it up, guys. Awesome, Big B. I dig. Then the Regimental Scott, I do believe that is our Canadian brother who's a mod. I believe I made him a mod. Let me make sure he's a mod. Yes, he's a standard moderator. This right here is Once Upon a Time Fog Defense. Says the chat is wondering what your Maddy's relation, if any, to Elder Packer is.
I don't
Are
know.
you related to the main man himself? Are you related to Brother Packer
Oh my gosh.
in any way?
I mean, Packer's my married name, so I don't really know. I think we're distantly
Yeah,
related.
he's-
It's not close.
He's a distant cousin of my dad's dad. So ironically, we're actually more closely related to the Bednars than we are to the Packers.
My middle name is Kay. So when I got married, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm Madeline K. Packer. Like Boyd.
That's cool. Rock on.
Boyd K. Packer.
Yeah.
Okay, it's almost like, when you're playing the One-Armed Bandits in Vegas, like the first 7 comes up,
Yeah.
then the second comes up, and you're like, what's the extra? Madeline, oh, bummer.
I know,
Just
seriously.
kidding. That's like 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Should have been a Boyd.
That's funny. So, you're not related to Elder Packer, but you are, and so now she is through marriage.
Yeah, kind of.
What are your thoughts on the barn burner, The Little Factory?
What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is, so I don't know that I have any thoughts.
Wait, I don't know what that is.
Oh my
Barn-
gosh, chat.
Barn burner?
Barn burner.
Chat. Okay, so a very controversial look. Boyd
Uh-oh.
K. Packer, The Little Factory. He did a talk for young men who may not have fathers to explain the human body.
No.
Your body is like a little factory that makes the life-giving serum. And sometimes that little factory produces an excess of that. It was a general conference sex talk called The Little Factory.
How did I
And
never
it
know
was,
about that?
oh, dude, it's called To Young Men Only. And they made a little PDF out of it. Yeah, the anti-Mormons, the ex-Mormon anti-Mormons, just like, it is one of their holy relics and holy grails.
That's hilarious.
Because in it, apparently there was a story where he said, like, he's like, if one of my friends tried to kiss me, I'd punch him or something like that. And they're like, this is totally advocating for anti-gay violence.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that eye roller, right? But here it is, To Young Men Only on Latter Gay Stories podcast. Yep, there it is right there. So here's the original one, To Young Men Only, an address given to the Priesthood Center of General Conference in 1976. Oop, it's not showing up all the way here. That's a little bit better now. They can see it. So it's called To Young Men Only, an address given to the Priesthood Session, October 2nd, 1976. And here it is. So for a long time, it was available as a little packet that you could get, kind of like, I don't know, the Proclamation of the Family. The church, you know, when it went all neoliberal in 1977 and neoconservative, when the church office building was formed, I think by the 90s or the early 2000s, it was taken out of the catalog, but it lives on Ex-Mormon subreddit as though it was written tomorrow.
I bet.
And you go onto youtube.com, and I have to admit that some of the remixes of this are hilarious. There's one done by a website called Orson Hyde. Here it is. Message to Young Men. Oh, this is too good. This is too good. Okay, there's one called, oh no, has it been taken down? It might have been taken down. I think it was called like Orson Hyde. But let's see, it's called, The Little Factor. This one came up a year ago. But let's watch where the most reviewed is. And let's see. Oh, dude, you will thank me. You will totally thank me. If we can find this in 30 seconds, we'll do it.
Now, one of you, perhaps, has not fully understood until now. Perhaps your father did not talk to you. You may already have been guilty of tampering with these powers.
What's he talking about, bro?
You may
That's
even
your
have
uncle.
developed a habit.
Distant cousin.
What then? First, I want you to know this. If you are struggling with this temptation, and perhaps have not been quite able to resist it, the Lord still loves you. It is not anything so wicked, nor is it a transgression so great.
Well, let's get to the good stuff.
Latter-day
nice.
Saint young men are not to do this. Sometimes this begins in a moment of idle foolishness when boys are just playing around. But it is not foolishness, it is remarkably dangerous. When a young man is finding his way into manhood, such experiences can misdirect his normal desires and pervert him. And is predestined to...
Yeah, so anyway, you guys can watch it, but dude, there's people that have taken Boyd K. Packer. I was looking at this Boyd K. Packer, and I think the guy called his YouTube channel Orson Hyde, and they put funny music to it, like the highlights on it, so it's like a 90-second reel, and it's like boom, ding, 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 ding. Brothers and sisters, don't play with it. If you touch it more than twice, you're fiddling. I'm just like, Boyd K.
What the
Packer.
heck?
Yeah. So anyway, that's
play with it,
that's
you'll
some
go
Mormon
blind.
lore for you. That's some Mormon lore for you
That's funny.
that you can watch that, and it's going to be absolutely hilarious. So anyway, sorry, wild tangent.
That
Coming back
was.
to the super chats
That's
right
funny.
now. Here's the super chats. Another one says, Greg says, hey, Maddy, I have a 17-year-old daughter who loves to argue. Any books you would suggest to battle harden her? I love the Hugh Nibley books, but they put her to sleep. Oh, any books for the next generation of Maddy Packers?
I wish I read more. I'm kind of one of those like Spark Notes people, but I do really like the arguments that Tad Arcalster makes in his book, A Case for the Book of Mormon. That's what it's called. I think it's a good intro to like apologetics about, well, it's about the Book of Mormon specifically, but it's totally an amazing intro to that world of like, how do you understand the critiques? How do you understand how to respond to them? And just kind of give you a boost of confidence that you do have a leg to stand on when it comes to the truth claims. So, I don't know. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, so what is our strongest truth claim, do you think? That gets lampooned but is actually the strongest?
Ooh, that's like a good question.
Like that we have the most support for?
Well, like what's our
Or
strongest
just
claim?
the boldest claim?
Like that has the most evidence, or I don't know.
I guess just impulsively, if you just thought somebody put a gun to your head, says, give me the top 3 reasons why you're Mormon.
Oh.
And if I believe these 3, you live. If one of them's just like hogwash, that's actually not provable, you die.
Okay.
Like Russian roulette in a bad horror movie from the early 2000s.
I think eternal families is a pretty strong one.
Okay, why do you say strong? Strong because it's the most emotive? Like, yes, I don't want to
Yeah.
be with my family forever. Okay.
I think so. I think that's a question everyone wants to know, like what happens to me after I die. I feel like that one makes a lot of sense and it speaks a lot of peace to people.
And okay. Well, but being comforting doesn't necessarily mean like true,
You
because
mean
we're
like
talking
maybe
truth
hard
claims.
facts here?
Well, but also hard facts are like I would
Sorry,
actually
you
argue.
asked me why are you a member, and that's the one that popped into my head as a good reason. So
Okay, that's
sorry.
true. But I would actually say, isn't there a lot of evidence that many, if not even most, of the early patristic fathers of the 1st through 4th centuries had some kind of conceptualization of a pre-mortal life and a concept of being with your family after this life? All of that wasn't really sterilized until the Middle Ages. Like, is that a fair, albeit overgeneralized generalization?
Yeah, I don't really know what the views about family going with you into the afterlife are. I know Jesus says like I have many mansions. That can mean many things. But I think if you're going to talk about the patristic fathers, maybe that would be my next claim or my next, I guess, choice in what's the strongest truth claim is a lot of the theological claims Joseph Smith made, you can find in early Christianity. And I feel like that's a pretty good indicator that something was there that was lost that he didn't just randomly make up.
Okay, word. I dig.
And I would say, too, I mean, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, our biggest truth claim is honestly about Jesus Christ as the Savior. Like, I remember on my mission, it was like my last area. I was going home in like 30 minutes, and it was like one of the last gospel doctrine classes I was a part of. And the gospel doctrine teacher gets up there, and she says, you know, if there was one answer to any question in the entire world, you know, that any of the philosophers have ever asked, like, what is the most important piece of truth it is for you to know? And, you know, people were giving comments like, you know, where do we come from? Why are we here? Obviously, you know, good questions. But I raised my hand and I said whether or not Jesus is the Christ. And that was the answer she was looking for. And honestly, that's the biggest truth claim. And in this book, you know, A Case for the Book of Mormon, Tad Arcalister makes the point of how the Book of Mormon testifies of Jesus Christ. He kind of goes through and says, you know, Christianity believes this about the Savior. Book of Mormon clarifies it in this way. And our biggest truth claim is really our understanding of the nature of Jesus Christ, his role as our Savior, overcoming spiritual and physical death. I mean, there's a lot of truth claims that wrap into it, but as a whole, I would say that is our biggest, boldest truth claim. And if a gun was held to my head, you know, it's a very beautiful doctrine. I have faith in it. I really hope it's true. And I'd say it's a very, you know, that's the church's boldest truth claim.
Okay, interesting.
That's true.
We got a couple of super chats here that are putting their opinion in. Justice GC says, have you ever heard of the tragedy of Joseph Smith the Prophet? I thought not. It's not a story the creedal Christians would tell you.
Do you know what Star Wars movie that one is from?
Oh my gosh.
Star Wars 3.
I'm tired
Darth
of
Plagueis
Star
the
Wars.
Wise. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
You are running circles
You have
around
got to
us.
stop.
Pardon. Have
This
you ever
is-
heard of this
You're
movie
encouraging-
series called Star
you're
Wars? They
Yes,
made a
encouraging-
bunch
I
of
have.
movies.
But this is great. I'm actually I'm appreciating this, Maddie. This is awesome. So that is, have you ever heard oh, you're right. Because this is when Emperor Palpatine was talking about Darth Plagueis, the guy that had figured out how to live forever. That could stop.
They're sitting at like the Jedi movies, eating their popcorn. He's like having a bonding moment.
No, this
with
is where
Palpatine.
when he's recruiting Anakin to become Darth Vader
right.
because his loved one died and he wants to be able to save her.
Yeah, it's the emotional manipulation. Yeah, it's a big turning point in the character arc. Man.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. No, I feel you. I feel you, bro. Have you ever seen the documentary that George Lucas did, like, of his own failure directing the first movie?
I don't like Star Wars enough.
Oh, you don't like it? No, it's really interesting. There was like a behind the scenes done of Star Wars where like his editor was there and they were watching the very first cut of the movie, and like the editor literally talks about how like he sits down and he's like, yeah, I kind of had to teach George about like pacing and emotion and editing. like George Lucas basically just allowed a behind the scenes of like the Phantom Menace to get made about like how bad it was. You know, it was actually just like all the Gen Z internet kids like always post that whenever somebody has an epic fail. So this is a great quote. Thank you, Justice GC. See, bringing in the Star Wars lore. Then the regimental Scott says strongest is the 19 witness testimonies of the Book of Mormon. See, I'm with you right there. I think like even Bart Ehrman is kind of blown away by Mormonism. And in debates with Christians, when they want to lampoon Mormonism, he'll say, dude, there's stronger evidence for Mormonism than there is for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And they'll say, oh yeah, Mormon in this way. He's like, wait, no, hold on. He's like, 19 men signed affidavits. 19 men never went back on the affidavits, like not one of them. And even despite ostracism from the church, ostracism from Joseph Smith, they always said, yeah, there's a lot I disagree with there. That happened. I will go to my grave saying that happened. And even Bart Ehrman, from just a completely historical perspective, says the primary documents, like there's stronger evidence and they're more believable to me as a sterile secularist that they actually happened than.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I don't know. To
Talking
me,
like hard facts, like hard, like.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not a fact in the sense that, like, we don't have the VCR footage.
No, but
of the first vision.
Testimony is pretty good. It's a pretty good primary source.
Yeah,
document,
but like
right?
from a trained historian's perspective, we have more evidence that the first vision happened and that angel. Sorry, not the first vision happened, but that the golden plates were real and that Joseph Smith translated them and the angel appeared to those men. We have more evidence of that than like 90% of the conquest of, I don't know, Alexander the Great or something.
That's true. It's true.
So watch, that's going to get clipped. And they're going to be like, no, see, actually, it's 72% of Alexander the Great. And, you know, it just, I can see the backyard professor making that video right now already. So thank you very much, the Regimental Scott. Okay, cool. So we're already an hour in. Like, I've only asked you like 3 questions, and I could pepper you with 20. Let's watch the super chat that got you into trouble. I want to see this. Not the super
very
chat.
different conclusions about.
I want to. I just want the audience to get a taste of your content if they haven't seen you yet.
This one,
so
or
they can see you. Well, this is the one that first got you into trouble, right?
I see. This was like the first one that caught people's attention, probably. Yeah.
Okay, and by people, you've been approached by all kinds of anti-Mormons, haven't you?
Yes.
What have they been saying?
A lot of them have invited me on their, well, one has invited me on his podcast. A lot of other ones just like, why would you say something that misrepresents what we think, that they think I've misrepresented them? I don't know. Just kind of stuff like, or arguing, just like, you're not taking other people's perspectives into account. I don't know.
Okay,
just
cool.
Everything.
So we'll watch this latest one that got you into trouble. I want to see why you got into trouble here. So it's this one right here where your arms in the girl heart thingy. So here, let's see.
This is direct evidence that contradicts.
Oh, well, hold on. That's kind of loud. Give me a minute here. Okay, so this is the one that got you into trouble. We're going to start at the beginning. 3, 2, 1. It says POV in 2026. You ditch the toxic negativity and narcissism of ex-Mormon women influencers.
I've always felt equal. Okay, that's great. And you're not. I don't need you to tell me what that means. I don't believe in that stuff anymore.
Wait, this is what got you in trouble?
Yeah, I know. How dare I?
Okay. What? So all you did was say POV, which is Gen Z speak for I want to make a reel about what we're about to talk about, but actually stands for point of view. But POV in 2026, you ditch the toxic negativity and narcissism of ex-Mormon women influencers. Okay, what makes you think it's just negative and narcissistic?
Well, if you read some of the words at the top of their reels that I clipped, she's talking about how mind you, this girl is a licensed family therapist whose page is just an entire gallery of anti-Mormon bias, as a therapist.
Okay. For those of you that can't read because it's small on a screen, it says, in your 20s, you realize the Mormon church doesn't know SHIT about joy, love, or spirituality. Leaving will be one of the best decisions of your life. Well, that's not very scientific recommendation from a supposedly scientific profession. All of the studies show that religious people are generally more happy in both self-reported happiness and longevity by almost every single measurable quantifier, from biometrics of health to just self-reported standardized testing on mental health.
Yeah.
And so in your 20s, you realize the Mormon church doesn't know SHIT about joy, love, or spirituality. Leaving will be one of the best decisions of your life.
This is on her therapist page, by the way. So she's marketing herself as a therapist, saying that.
The statistics of people that leave religions, especially religions that religions are notorious, religious groups are notoriously better statistically at having well-adjusted children, especially religions that have rites of passage. That's one of the quantifiers in all of the studies.
Interesting.
The bat mitzvah for Jews, the 8-year-old baptism for Mormon young men, and then at 12 years old you receive the Aaronic priesthood, 18 you receive the Melchizedek priesthood, usually 19 to 21 you serve a mission, so on and so forth. These rites of passage would create camaraderie amongst all the men that went through them, unity amongst all the women that went through them. You felt like you were part of the in-group. That generally leads to you feeling like you have more of a support system. You're going to generally have more children. Having more children leads to long-term happiness. There's all kinds of just like rising tides that happen in religions with rites of passage. And there's myriad studies, cross-cultural studies that have been performed all over the world, so much so that it's just like this ad nauseum reality that is just such a reality we don't even need to study it anymore. It's almost like, is the sky blue because it's full of nitrogen? You know, like it's just, we don't have to study that anymore even. So she says in your 20s, you realize the Mormon church doesn't know SHIT about joy, love, or spirituality. Leaving will be one of the best decisions of your life. Statistically, that is totally untrue.
And I just
that
said,
would be one of the worst decisions of your life.
I'm saying that's toxically negative, and I don't know why I can't say that.
Okay. Now, was this just something taken out of context? Did
No,
she
that was her whole, that reel was just by itself her spinning around with that caption. It's not.
Okay, so
nothing
what's
else.
what's the next one here? Let's see here.
This is
Well, my friends are
that contradicts the
waving
Book of
from the
Mormon.
shore.
The Book of Mormon is a fiction book. Okay, so why is the Book of Mormon a fiction book? I recognize the face of Alyssa Grimfell in that short clip. Why is that so toxic, narcissistic, and negative?
I mean, I kind of just used that clip as like an example of her and her content, but it's toxically negative because all of your, I guess, the presupposition you're standing on is that everything's fake. We're looking at this through a lens of cynicism. And I'm going to tell you why it's not true and then give you extremely terrible reasons why it's not true that I can debunk in 5 seconds, which I did in a different video, that same clip.
Okay. Ooh, now you got the queen. You're coming after the queen, so you better not miss. You're coming after the queen, you better not miss. We got Julie Hanks here. What's your beef with Julie Hanks? POV in 2026, just toxic, negative, narcissistic, extra more. Okay, so that's your overlay here. Let's see what she has to say.
I've always felt evil. Okay, that's great. And you're
I
not.
don't need
Oh, so you're just putting these up as examples now. at
Yeah,
this
just
point.
like this culture of the ex-Mormon woman influencer that is to me, toxically negative and narcissistic in nature, because it's all about, you know, ditching everything that has any type of authority over you, reclaiming your autonomy and your personal authority, and what's right for me is what's right for me, regardless of what's right or wrong in the rest of the world. And so to me, like, me making this, me pointing out what ex-Mormon women influencers have to say, my whole goal is to try to convince people not to listen to this anymore. Let's not listen to what they have to say anymore. It's not good for you. It's not going to lead you to a place that's happier than the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I want to contend with what they're saying. That's my take on engaging with ex-Mormon content, because it has to be done. I know, like, a lot of people will argue and say, well, we should really only be focusing on just talking about the gospel. We should just really be focusing on talking about Jesus Christ. And I agree, we need that content for sure. But, you know, to me, what frustrates me is when members of the church maybe feel a little more self-righteous or more morally superior, and they just wash their hands of that type of, you know, engagement or talking about certain subjects or getting into the nitty-gritty of a discussion or important issue, something like abortion, for example. In my opinion, I think Latter-day Saints, if we claim that we have truth, if we claim that we value, you know, standing up for what's right, I think we need to have members of the church on the forefront of that battle of, is abortion right or wrong? I think Latter-day Saints should be in that discussion. But, you know, because we might offend people, because we might cause drama, because we might ruffle some feathers, I wash my hands of that, and I'm just going to make content that says, Jesus loves you. Everything is so beautiful with Jesus. And it's like, that's true, but we have to do both. You have to do the hard work. You have to get in there, because it's a cultural war. I mean, this is a culture war between anti-Mormon content and pro-Mormon content. And when kids are going through social media, they're just getting a ton of negativity. They're seeing all the critics. They're seeing all the bad stuff. When they turn on the TV, they're getting all of the documentaries on Mormonism cult and, you know, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and the Ruby Frankie, Jody Hildebrandt. Like, they're telling our story. We're not having a chance to tell our story. And so from my perspective, you need to be in there fighting these type of cultural wars just as much as you need to be sharing wonderful, devotional, uplifting content. Because if you can't win hearts and minds through logic, through argumentation, people aren't going to be interested in whatever else you have to say if they're not convinced that you have anything worth saying.
So that's really interesting. I want to focus on what you said about how you have to engage in these culture wars.
Yes.
I agree with you that oftentimes people are like, there's an aversion to culture war stuff because it's almost perceived as somehow like errant because of irrelevance. But I can see where like people like you and Jacob Hansen are coming from, where it's like, it's not irrelevant. It's actually the most relevant, because it's what happens when you reject or accept the practical application of religion. So, what's the, I would almost want to say, like, what's the Christ-like justification or the scriptural justification that we need to participate in culture war issues? Because at the end of the day, if we're Christians, we're trying to model our life like Christ. What would you say if somebody said, okay, give me the scriptural basis or the Christian reason why we should participate in culture war arguments?
I mean, I would argue that all the prophets, that's all that they did. I mean, honestly. And I would say that there's scriptures that say stuff like contend for the faith, always have, you know, an answer to give for a reason for your hope, or whatever that scripture in Peter is. And then I would even look at the examples of the prophets in the Book of Mormon who openly contended with, like, the Antichrist. The Antichrists were going around in the public spaces, you know, spewing whatever their theological premises were, including, you know, that there is no God, that there is no law, that there's no such thing as sin, you're going to die, so live, you know, how you want to live. We didn't just let these people walk around and convince people without questioning it. The prophets didn't just say, you know, we're just going to let him do what he's going to do. We'll focus on what we're working on. It will die of irrelevance. No one will give him any attention. No, they didn't do that. They said, actually, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say you're wrong because XYZ. And again, I've said this before, but it wasn't necessarily for the benefit of the Antichrist, which you hope that whenever you share truth, it benefits whoever's listening. But I would argue that like Alma didn't contend with Korihor necessarily to change Korihor's mind. He contended with Korihor to change the minds of the people that were watching this happen, the third party viewer, I guess you could say. Because that's what I mean by culture war. War, maybe people don't like that word, but that's what's happening. It's a spiritual battle. It's an intellectual battle. It's an ideological battle. These things all matter when it comes to having a testimony of the gospel and understanding what's right and wrong. If you're, and this goes beyond just Mormonism and theology, it goes into even how we view, like what are presuppositions of in the world and in politics and in our society of what's right and wrong, because then you might put some of those presuppositions or those ideologies in a priority that puts you at odds with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's a problem. And so you kind of have to address these things, kind of like you have to go back downstream to the crux of these issues. Why do people think this? Well, you need to go and you have to address what it is that's causing people to think this way, what it is that's causing people to doubt this. Yeah, it's all connected. You can't just ignore it, in my opinion.
Okay, well, you actually kind of crushed it here. I just pulled up scripture notes while you were talking because I was trying to figure out what was that scripture here. And so I plugged into the AI assistant Daniel. You can actually ask scripture notes. You can just like plain old just ask it a question. It's got this kind of like, I don't know, Apple has Siri. Amazon has who's Amazon's person? Alexa, yeah, Amazon. Dude, Star Wars and Amazon. That is my wheelhouse. That's your wheelhouse. I just asked him. It was actually kind of funny. The question went away, but it's hilarious. I basically just said, okay, where is the scripture in Peter that talks about contending for the faith and the light that was in you? I was trying to regurgitate what you said because I know the scripture you're talking about. I've heard it quoted before, but I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. And it says, where's the scripture that says contend for the faith and light that is in you? Great question. The scripture you're looking about comes from the New Testament, but let's clarify your phrase, contend for the faith. Contend for the faith actually appears in Jude, not Peter, saying, Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you, and the common salvation was needful for me to write unto you, and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. However, that light that is in you is a verse from the Gospel of Matthew, not Peter. And it gives that scripture. Then it says, however, Peter does write about being ready to answer about your faith.
That's the one.
And maintaining good works. Yes, you were right. This is actually impressive, Maddy. You crushed it.
Thanks.
It's in 1 Peter 3:15 and says, but sanctify the Lord in your hearts and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Wow. Good job. All these passages encourage us to protect, defend, or share our faith in the light of Christ within us. Wow. Okay. Crush it. So you think we're not doing that enough, huh?
No, this is why I felt strongly to come kind of add my voice. Since I was young, I've just seen a lack in church culture of kind of playing that defense and defending why we believe what we believe. Just being on the outside of the Mormon community growing up, it was really, really hard to be a member of the church. It was my refiner's fire for sure. I just felt like every day was going into the trenches. Every day was being judged, being condemned, being labeled anything and everything you could think of, politically, religiously, whatever. And so for me, what I craved from like church culture was a defense for me, like a defense for members living how they live and believing what they believe because XYZ. But instead I felt like the culture and the attitude was more one of pandering to the person that maybe felt offended in church. It was pandering to the margins of those that maybe had problems with church doctrine, had, ideological problems with church policy, with these things. And so it kind of made me feel like, I was the one, as a youth, I was the one that needed to apologize to my peers for I'm so sorry that I believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman. I really hope I don't hurt your feelings. Instead of, this is why we believe marriage is between a man and a woman, and it's a good thing. and you should be proud of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have always struggled my entire life with this attitude of erring on the side of pandering to empathy, again, which is important, but it needs to be balanced. It needs to be balanced with truth. And this is why I say people weaponize the word, you're not being Christ-like. That's not Christ-like. I say you're weaponizing that by trying to shut me down from saying what's true, trying to shut me down from telling you where the correction needs to be. Because it needs to happen. Christ was merciful. He had empathy. He forgave, but it was never at the cost of the law. So it has to be in balance. And that's just my opinion.
So how do we get, okay, one more super chat and then I got a question for you. But it says, here are 3 pieces of evidence. Mahuja, Enoch's helper. Yeah, he's talking about, I believe that's actually from the book of Moses, not necessarily from the book of Mormon, but same thing. The Ohio Decalogue Stone and the Las Lunas Decalogue Stone. Shout out New Mexico. I'm not familiar with all the details of those, other than, of course, they're called hoaxes.
I have been to Las Lunas many times.
Oh, you have?
I have.
Have you seen the Las Lunas Decalogue Stone?
I can't say I've actually heard of that one.
People say it's a hoax, but there's this guy that found this stone that supposedly, I think it has like the Ten Commandments written on it. Las Lunas Decalogue. Here's my deal with what are called, like, I shouldn't say the Michigan artifacts, but I all of them are called hoaxes, which I think is just unfair and cynical, stupid atheism at work, where I think I'm smarter because I say I don't believe something. And it can't be true that all of them are hoaxes, just like it can't be true that all of them are real. Like, it becomes a statistical impossibility, knowing especially the way men behaved in the 18th and 19th century. There were lots of charlatans. They were coming up with fake relics, lost tribes of Israel popping up in every state, Indian artifacts that, led to El Dorado. Like, there was a lot of charlatanism back then, okay? At the same time, there was also a lot of just incredible breakthroughs. The Rosetta Stone wasn't, wasn't falsified. Evidence we have in North America of the mound building civilization being so much larger and more advanced than, like, we used to believe. It literally used to be the academic consensus that the Mayan were peaceful agricultural savages. It was the peaceful savage myth.
Yeah. The noble savage.
Exactly. The noble savage myth. And people didn't believe, even if they believed that there were ancient and lost civilizations in the Americas, which some people just plain old didn't believe because of racism against American Indians. They thought, oh, these people aren't capable of anything advanced like us. So besides, like, the racist motifs, there was people that actually thought, no, there are civilizations here, but they were peaceful, like eco-savages. And there was no way they were violent, like the Book of Mormon says. So they would accept that there were ancient civilizations in the Americas, but not that they were, like Joseph Smith said. Everybody knows they were peaceful. And then, of course, they dig up the very first pyramid at Teotihuacan that shows, like, bamboo shoots getting shoved under the fingernails of, like, captives as they bleed and scream in horror.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And so anyway, Las Lunas Decalogue Stone. This one's
I'll have
fun.
to look into that because I am from New Mexico.
It's let me see here. It says Las Lunas Decalogue Stone, known as the Mystery Stone or Commandment Rock, is a large boulder near Las Lunas, New Mexico, inscribed with what appears to be the 10 Commandments in ancient Paleo-Hebrew, sparking debate over whether it's evidence of pre-Columbian Semitic contact or a modern hoax. Most scholars leaning towards a hoax due to script errors and lack of corroborating evidence. But let me tell you, it makes for an amazing History Channel episode.
That's right.
So we'll have to dive into that in another episode. Got a couple more super chats here. Thank you, DTOM76. And the regimental Scott comes back and says, Christ was never nice, though he always was kind. Yeah, we're kind of at that point in a church right now where we're really wrestling still.
I mean, he did call people vipers, and your father is the devil, and you do the works of your father. What do we mean by kind? We like to ascribe things from our, kind of woke lens, our soft culture lens of not offending people. I'm not saying Christ wasn't kind. I'm just saying sometimes the harsh truth isn't unkind. Okay, cool. Rock on. What was it like dating Maddy?
Spotlight.
Yeah. What was did you guys ever just sit around and just talk about, like, so
I do
the hypostatic union and how to get the young women to understand the Godhead versus the Trinity. I'm really struggling with that, honey. After we choose my wedding dress, can we go buy a, you know what I'm saying? Just like, what was it like? Were these the things you talked about? Like, what was that like?
Ironically, yeah, that's pretty much how our first date went.
Do you
no,
remember that conversation?
I do, yeah.
What did we talk about?
I don't know if I can get into it here, but yeah, so dating Maddy, I was pretty fresh off my mission. I had been home for about 2 years when I met her, and she was actually in my dad's ward. My dad was a BYU bishop down in BYU Provo.
Wait,
and
you were the recommendation from the YSA? Oh,
Yep.
bro.
It's just, blessings of righteous living, I guess.
Oh,
And
yeah. Or nepotism.
That's right.
All right.
That's
Oh
right.
my god.
Yeah. No, she met pretty much every member of my family before she ever met me. But
That's true.
yeah, when we one of the things that I really loved about Maddy, getting to know her, was kind of her deep, genuine understanding of the gospel, and she had this really unique background, kind of going into the from the Catholic school, understanding a lot of the theology behind it. It was very educational for me. We just talked about really deep topics, but yeah, that's kind of what a lot of that's how a lot of the conversations went, was kind of these different beliefs from Protestants and Catholics, and yeah, it was interesting.
Wow,
Interesting.
dude. Hardcore, man. Hardcore. Well, geez, that's wild, man. That's nuts. That's cool, though. Thank you very much for that last super chat. Unfortunately, we only got like 5 minutes here left. We're always having so much fun and stuff, but it's almost 9 p.m. here. So everybody that's hanging out with us right now is just super hardcore, and we're grateful for you guys hanging out. If you have any last super chats that you guys want to throw us into, or sorry, that you want to throw at us, just put them inside of the chat right now. We'll do our best to respond to them. Just a little reminder here that this episode is actually sponsored by our boys over at scripturenotes.com. You'll notice that we use scripture notes for reference to all of the scriptures that are discussed on Ward Radio, specifically through the use of their AI assistant Daniel. They're a company that actually makes a scripture reading platform that can be read online and has AI assistant tools to help you prepare for any kind of, talks you're giving or something like that. And they've been very generous with us for a very long time, and a useful tool for searching for all of the scriptures on our show. And we thank them for their generosity. If you guys would like to know more about scripture notes, please make sure you guys check out the links in the description, or you visit scripturenotes.com. Shout out Oak Norton, the guy that actually does the coding and has appeared on our show. It is a labor of love. He's like literally like the guy running the show, but he's the wizard behind the curtain. It's kind of cool. He's been very generous with us. We thank him. So, all right. So you're digging it. You're on Instagram. My last question here in the last 5 minutes before we go is, I'm gonna play a little reel.
Okay.
I'm gonna play a little reel. Came up on my Facebook the other day, and I think this is a perfect reel for you. This is Eric Weinstein. Okay, sorry, Brett Weinstein, brother of Eric Weinstein, who is a professor at Evergreen College. He was embroiled in a controversy pre-COVID of just like wokeness going off the rails, and became part of the intellectual dark web. And he's an evolutionary biologist who is a self-proclaimed atheist, but kind of like friend of Christianity because he recognizes its role in society and actually its evolutionary function, believe it or not.
Yep.
And so he's been kind of like an anti-woke champion, I would say, for a really long time. COVID made for strange bedfellows. Liberal professors, right, with Catholic priests saying this has gone way too far, right? So he's one of these guys. And this is what he said on his podcast called the Dark Horse Podcast about the difference between young men and young women's reaction to woke. Let's see what he has to say.
I see signs of life amongst young men. I see them beginning to recognize what they lost and trying to find their way back. I'm not sure back is where they want to go, but trying to find their way back because it was better. And I do not see this amongst young women. I see a lot of doubling down on these notions that turn out to have been devastating. And there's a sense that those notions are entitled to be right, that these ideas are so beautiful that surely if we just put our foot on the accelerator, sooner or later we will get to that utopian place. And I'm frustrated that women are not recognizing the predicament that has been created. I'm not looking for fault finding. What I want is for people to stand up for themselves, and to the extent that they've been sold a bill of goods that has led them into self-harm, I would like them to reject it, return to sender, and figure out what I suspect are not going to be old rules. They're going to have some traditional aspects to them. They're going to have some novel aspects to them, but to essentially renegotiate the agreement between the sexes.
You know, we can stop right there because he said the part that I wanted to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
He says, I notice signs of life in young men. Because, you know, our entire society, men included, embraced wokeism for a pretty long time. We invented it here in L.A. about the 90s. You know, we kicked off that Super Bowl in somewhere in the early to mid 90s. Halftime was the early 2000s. Crescendo, that fourth quarter, boy, that was COVID. Yeah. You know, that was COVID. But game was over. Game was over by 2022. People figured out this is stupid. You know, by 2025, people are like, okay, we're no longer asking, is religion harmful? We recognize it's not harmful. It's actually necessary for a good and a thriving society. But now the question is like, which religion? And so now we've got young men going to church more than young women for the first time in American history. Mm-hmm. I noticed this in our church. I know my evangelical friends notice it in their church. Catholics are noticing it in their congregations. You've got the first generation of men that are young men that are going to church with their grandparents because faith has skipped multiple generations. Boomers that are going to church with their Gen Alpha grandchildren because their Gen Xer and millennial kids just fell into atheism 2.0, into, you know, I'm too smart to believe, you're stupid if you do. All of those notions. So he says, I notice, as a man that deals with young men all the time, I notice signs of life in young men, that they're coming around. They're rejecting these bad woke ideas, these bad ideologies, and they're coming around. But I do not see it in women. In fact, I see doubling down. So do you share this outlook? Because I got to tell you, it spoke to my heart when I heard that. I see so many men coming around and just being like, dude, Carden, what do I got to do? I actually want to get married. I actually want to go be able to get a house. I don't just want to be living in my parents' place forever. Like, I see so many young men trying to just lift themselves up by the bootstraps, trying to improve their lives, trying to get an education, not just a brainwashing in some college, but like useful education, whether it's practical education like a trade school or a theoretical education like in academia or whatever. I see them trying to improve themselves and improve their lot. And I see them coming around. But with young women, there's a lot of people that are like, I think so many people were just refreshed to see you coming because they're like, we need this. Like, there's not the same optimism for women in the church as there is for men, because just like Brett Weinstein said here, we see signs of life in the young men, not in the young women. Why is that, and how can we cultivate that?
For me, I believe the main reason that women keep going down this path is because we have adopted feminist ideology so deeply into our every facet of society. It's just kind of a given that the presuppositions of feminism are right, are good, and we just kind of keep getting pushed further and further down that brainwash rabbit hole of following that path. And I think until we're able to convince women that they don't need that in their life, that they don't need to subscribe to this idea that they are victims in society, we're not going to win that particular culture war.
Okay, what presuppositions of feminism do you feel are automatically accepted that should not be?
That men and women should be doing the same things in society. I think that is not necessarily true or good.
Okay.
I think the presupposition that if men are in a hierarchy of authority over women, that it inherently disempowers women. I think that's not true or good to believe. I think those would be my main ones. Feminism, like a lot of feminists will say, well, our strain of feminism is about improving life and inequality for men and women. And I would argue, well, what does that look like? Because they'll usually say it means moving towards a more egalitarian society. And I would say to that's just not achievable, nor is it good for anybody. So
yeah, it's kind of funny that you mentioned this, because like for me, if I were to find hope for young women and we're addressing feminism and like how to turn that boat around,
yeah,
I would actually want to address the very nature of what feminism is, because it's spoken about as some kind of just being pro-woman, like thinking well, women should be equal, and whenever marketed, it's just like this, just like this nice girl power thing. It's like, no, it stopped being that in the 20s, like, and that's not what we're dealing with now. And just like there was like a great apostasy throughout the first through fifth centuries, okay, about like what the nature of God is, what the sacraments are, what the nature of the Holy Spirit is, what, just war is, and so on and so forth. There was a great apostasy of what feminism is. It has gone from like women should vote to abject man-hating. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I got subbed to this Therapy by Emily was recommended to me on Instagram. And this was like the second thing I scrolled into her account. So I'm not trying to, flame this girl that I don't know. But I just appreciated the honesty of this reel. So I'm just going to play it right now really fast. But she goes after the Mormon Church pretty hard. So I think that this is kind of, I think it's appropriate to critique. But apparently she's a licensed therapist, which I appreciate.
They always are.
Instead of being, well, no, actually, they often aren't.
Or
okay.
life coaching.
Yeah, it's this crappy life coaching. And
Either
then now
or.
Hayden Holm gets to go out and get his trauma coach certificate and be just as credentialed and parrot all of these people's sound bites with a $13.99 degree online. But here we go. Therapy by Emily. 126K followers. All right. You go, girl. So yeah, she makes fun of Mormons a lot as kind of like the poster child of toxic masculinity, toxic religiosity, just all the tropes, right? But this is something I actually appreciated. And you know how I said sometimes I actually appreciate the secular left more than the religious right, because at least they're honest about their hatred. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where I appreciate that she's just honest about her hatred and her man-hating. So this is the second reel of hers that I saw. And it literally says, POV, interviewing your new therapist and finding out you found the one. Okay. And this is the actual reel right here. Therapy by Emily. Go.
No, I'd consider myself a misandrist.
So a feminist?
No.
Well, what's the difference between a feminist and a misandrist?
A feminist believes that everyone is equal. A misandrist believes that women are actually better than men.
Consider yourself a feminist?
No, I'd consider myself a misandrist.
What does the caption on her thing say?
So she says, POV, interviewing your new therapist and finding out you found the one. So meaning like, oh, you found the good one, right?
Yeah.
And then what is the argument she's having is, oh, do you consider yourself a feminist? And she's like, no, I consider myself a misandrist. Like, wait, what? No, like I literally think not just like girl power and girls should be equal. I think girls are better.
She's actually claiming that she's a misandrist.
Well, I mean, in a humorous roundabout way.
Gotcha.
But no, when you look at her profile, it's obvious, right?
Gotcha.
And that's all that modern feminism is it's the opposite of misogyny, misandry. I'm sure that's probably what the Greek breakdown is. Okay. And I'm probably going to get flamed now for even having brought this girl up. She's probably got 50 friends that hate me and are all on ex-Mormon subreddit, right? But yeah, so like listen, no, what should we listen to it? It's kind of funny. I actually appreciate this.
Myself a misandrist.
So a feminist.
No.
Well, what's the difference between a feminist and a
A feminist
misandrist?
believes that everyone is equal. A misandrist believes that women are actually better than men.
Consider yourself
Okay, there. So it's like I actually kind of appreciate the honesty.
That's funny.
That it's like, okay, you're a man hater and you know it.
Yeah,
Like, you
that's
know, and so anyway, yeah, so this is just so she can't say she was improperly
And
represented.
if a man did that, that would just, opposite way. No, I am a misogynist. I believe men are better.
Yeah.
Done.
That's true. So this is Emily.
This is Emily.
Let me see, let's see.
She's a therapist who is writing a smut book about a therapist and client who...
wrong book.
Oh, right. Sorry. Her other book is an educational resource for new therapists, and it includes absolutely no boning. See, once upon a time...
This is actually kind of funny.
Emily was a new therapist who felt like she didn't know what she was doing. She was scared and needed a little direction. So she started
That's
writing
the best
down...
kind of therapist.
I was about to say, again, though, like, I appreciate that they're recognizing that, like, it's a monetary pipeline and it's an industry just like anything else. Like, there were construction workers that didn't think they could lay brick evenly when they started out and they just weren't confident. And so here she is, like, I actually kind of appreciate this. You're going to see, this is the very first thing that came up. This is the first one that I saw. And you're going to see something here. This is where I could tell she was an ex-Mormon. This is why the algorithm was representing to me that she was kind of an anti-Mormon. Because here it comes.
She learned. From her classes at NYU, from her supervision sessions, from her personal therapy, and from all the trainings she had to attend. Emily has no chill whatsoever, so she alphabetized the notes and made them searchable by keyword. Then Emily felt better. Whenever she was lost with a client, she'd seek comfort from her Bible.
Oh, there it is. What do you recognize about it?
That is
I
her
can't
baby
see it.
therapist Bible.
Oh, you couldn't see it.
It's
It was
just too
Twilight
small,
series.
sorry.
Is that
well, no, that's the Mormon Seminary
yeah.
publication.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Yeah, so it's too long, and unfortunately, this is on Instagram, so you can't just review it.
Yeah.
But when she was going through past Twilight and all this other stuff, and then she comes on the Mormon Bible, it says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints there, and I was like, oh, guaranteed this is an ex-Mormon chick. And I think it was actually super symbolic because it shows from her classes at NYU. I love how Jonah Barnes says that modern young children and modern young men and women are getting baptized into a religion they never consented to, which is the modern feminist secularist take, and it has become wildly narcissistic and wildly toxic, and it says it's against religion, meanwhile behaving exactly like a religion.
Exactly.
Okay, which is hypocritical and toxic and just frustrating for those that are on the receiving end of it. And I think men are coming around to realize that, but just like women aren't. And I see an end in sight for men subscribing to very, very toxic, like wokeism is basically the amalgamation of all of the worst of secularist ideas, is if I were to try and summarize it in one sentence, okay? And I see men coming around, but I don't necessarily see women. So, and in fact, I see actually a lot of doubling down, like even making fun of religion even more and harder and more overtly, even to the point now that a therapist can come out and just say like, oh no, I'm not just a feminist. I'm a misandrist.
Right.
Now it's done humorously.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like there's always truth in joking.
Right.
There's always truth in joking. And no man at peak male misogynist bigotry in the 1950s would feel comfortable just coming out and saying like, no, men are just better. Like they might hide behind gentlemanly arguments, you know. They might make maybe the most tongue-in-cheek comments, which who knows, maybe this is, right? But I don't see the same level of hope out of modern American women as I do modern American men. And I wonder from a girl's perspective, how do we turn that ship around? What can we do as members of the church, members of American society at large, members of the West, to try and convince more women that, hey, actually these traditional values are worth it. Hey, there's measurable quantifiers that show this secularism does not lead to more happiness. So if happiness is your bag, you actually might want to consider going back to church, getting married, Boss babing it ain't so cool a decade later when you have nobody to share your success with. You're childless, and cats aren't as cool as kids.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a study that just came out, I forget by who, but it said by 2030, almost half of all women will be childless and unmarried.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And I've seen the frightening stats. I've seen a lot of really interesting theories written out, and there's no way to test it, so it's always going to stay as a theory. But I was reading this article by, I can't remember who the social scientist was, but he was quoting, I can't remember who he was quoting either. So at this point, I can only paraphrase. But he said that one of the most troubling aspects of wokeism and the corrosive effects of all of these secularist academic ideas have on our society is that they are wrapped in the maternal care of childless women. That all of the social energy that could be put into raising children and the next generation of Americans, the next generation of members of the church, the next generation of players in the NBA, of painters who will end up in the Museum of Art, and dancers that will end up in Carnegie Hall, that instead of being those that would cultivate those that next generation, that energy is put into PETA and shaming people on the New York subway for having had a McChicken, you know, and I get that. Sure, maybe that's an oversimplification, but we all know exactly what I'm talking about. And like, a society cannot survive when 50% of its women are childless and just embracing angry social causes that mock religion and openly are misandrist. Like, that's just a recipe for disaster, akin to, it was actually what caused the fall of the Roman Empire. Was just that the fall of Rome was due largely to the fact that there was massive swaths of hyper wealthy, men and women that just did not embrace the traditional values of simple replacement. And exactly. It led to their downfall. It's like when you study the fall of the Roman Empire, I mean, it's like,
yeah, they got outbreeded.
Outbred. Or outbreeded.
I don't know which
I don't
one's
know.
right.
Outbrode.
Outbrode. Yeah. So, what can we do to, like, how does the average young women's president or young men's president? I think the average young men's president knows how to inspire young men to embrace the gospel. I don't know if the average young women's president really knows how to fight toxic wokeism so women embrace the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's something that I still feel like I'm trying to piece together as far as like a recipe or a formula for how best to help combat it, like on maybe an institutional level. But I do feel like something that our church culture could really improve upon is, instead of kind of giving into this, like, you know, almost like we apologize for, you know, men's roles, we apologize for women feeling this way, when instead we should be addressing, well, why is it the reason you feel that way, and is that a correct way to think about it? I think what we need to start doing is explaining why women are important in the church, but, you know, encouraging things like motherhood is good. Motherhood is not less than. We should be encouraging women to focus on children. We should be encouraging women to realize the importance that they play that is irreplaceable in their homes. And not that, like, you know, whatever, women can't work or whatever. But we don't ever talk about what's best for children, and we don't ever talk about what makes everyone work best together. We kind of always talk about, this is what I want to do. This is what would make me happy. This is what my passion is. And there's a place for that. But we kind of forget that there's also obligation. And sometimes being in those obligations and in those roles will actually bring you to the most joy and the most happiness, and it will help everybody thrive optimally. So I don't know. I just feel like we really do need to go back to kind of like not shying away from saying, hey, it's really great for you to be with your kids as much as you can during the day. Work is cool, careers are cool, but it's really an amazing, unique thing for mothers to be with their children. So
why don't more Mormon mothers do that? Because, like, for example, we've used this, I don't know, this poor girl. I hope she doesn't feel like we're like flaming her. You know, she's the example that came to mind and one of the most recent ones that came into my algorithm. So we'll just return to it because it's the topic du jour at this point. But like, I look at this social media profile, and from a marketing and a media perspective, I think frickin' baller. This chick is espousing and embracing and promoting her ideas and making money off of it phenomenally well. Like, consistent posting. She's doing really good job targeting, obviously, millennial women her age with like these get ready with me videos, things I would never do after being a eating disorder therapist for 7 years. A great title. You're doing the bird theory wrong. Here she's even got some commentaries on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives down here. But like prolific content creator, good stuff, well framed. I mean, even this is not a chaotic page. It's organized, it's unified, it's everything that one would recommend if they were reading blogs on how to, thrive on Instagram. And sure, here enough. Look, boom. We might think this is toxic.
Amongst family members can be a difficult part of the holidays. I'm a therapist, and here are my 3 tips for you.
Like, this is funny. She's literally saying, like, how do you like deal with disparate views with family members around Thanksgiving politically, which is the tried and true crash point for families that get together during the year, when there's like the crazy MAGA uncle, and then there's like, I guess now her showing up, and she's just leaning into the meme, lampooning it, putting on a Hillary Clinton shirt, I don't know, probably a shout your abortion hat, and just
Navigating political divide amongst family members can be a difficult part of the holidays. I'm a therapist, and here are my 3 tips for you.
Like, this is funny and good. So
It is funny.
So, like, I kind of look at this in the same way that, like, soldiers had respect for warriors on the other side that were uniformed. Like, spies always get hung because it's like, hey, you're not putting on a uniform, you're not playing overtly. Like, the reason why I can't bring myself to loathe these people or to be too angry is because I just have too much respect. Like, I think the ideology is toxic. Okay. But I look at it and I'm like, you know what? You're putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? Like you're putting in the work, and you're feeding your people. You're feeding them toxic sludge. And sure, you guys, you might be the bad dudes in Mad Max and the Thunderdome. You know what I'm saying? You might be the smokers in Waterworld or whatever, okay? But dang, like, this is good, and you're putting in the work, right? For your ideology. I can, like, game can respect game. True. And I can respect the feminist that, like, overtly says, I'm a misandrist, right? So why don't we have more, if the conservative values are so much better, especially the socially traditional conservative values, not necessarily the environmental or the economic ones or whatever, if those are so much better, like, why aren't the counterparts of the therapists like this doing a better job?
It's a good question. And I do feel like some of it is fear, because the scale has tipped more in favor of that type of content. You're not, sometimes I just think it's funny when, like, the ex-Mormon women will come and say, sharing my story, talking about this stuff, it's so brave. Like, you're so brave for sharing. And it's like, okay, fine. Maybe in your world and where you come from, it is brave to say that. But from my perspective, you are the majority. And these women, they fall in the majority. So it's actually kind of scary to go against that.
But they're also not now. Like, the New York Times is 53% female employee now. Like, collegiate professors was the last of the scales to be tipped. But, like, the majority of master's degree applicants and students is female now. The number of professions, like everything from veterinarians, who are like 80-something% female, to, like, lawyers, like, most of these major institutions in America
are now majority female.
They're majority female, and they're female dominated. So it's not even like we're the silent majority anymore. Like,
you mean like conservative women are the are not the silent majority? Or?
Yeah, I would say, I would just say people that espouse especially socially traditional viewpoints, like the importance of traditional marriage and having more than 2.3 children. Like, that in and of itself is not the majority position anymore.
No, it's not.
Okay,
Correct.
so when people want to try and use the cop-out of silence for majority position. I'm like, no, that's an outdated idea. And also, if they want to use the lamentation that, oh, well, I'm fearful of what will happen. Well, okay, isn't the point of Christianity to overcome fear?
Yes.
So it's like, I still don't see why more Mormon women within Mormonism, like everybody moans about Julie Hanks. Dude, she puts in the work. And I get that there's a natural uphill disadvantage. If you're raising 3 or 4 children, you're going to have far less time than maybe this girl with 1 or Julie Hanks with none, or as an empty nester, or with the young raging gender studies PETA volunteer, angry lesbian at NYU who has nothing better to do other than blog and start an Instagram channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that, like, if you're doing religion right, especially ours, that you're much more busy. But also, I think you're also much more effective. And I don't see Mormon women fighting the tide of wokeism in their circles like young men did. And I'm wondering why and how to turn that around.
No, yeah, you're right. And I think it's because, like I was talking about earlier, we just kind of have a culture and an attitude of being scared to offend people, because then it takes away our Christ-likeness. I genuinely think that's why women want to be kind. They want to be empathetic. They want to be liked. I think too, we need to get over the fear of not being liked. We need to get over the fear of being maybe rejected by mainstream culture in the name of standing up for what's true and showing the world that, hey, I'm actually going to fight back against what you're saying. I do think that if more of us could band together, it would really help.
Cool. All right, we're going to hit some of these super chats and then we'll get out of here. Thank you very much for everybody that has contributed to the channel by super chat. First one says, great guest. Does Maddy have a YouTube channel? Maddy, do you have a YouTube channel?
No, not yet.
No, coming sometime soon.
Maybe
I'm sure.
sometime soon.
Yeah, right now she's trying to get baby number 2 out and sticking to Instagram,
true.
right? Okay, No Skullborg says, do you think it's important to have clear answers on, quote, your own planet, infinite regress, and multiple Christs? Atheists seem to want to clarify there. Okay, what are your thoughts on infinite regress, multiple Christs, and getting your own planet, Maddy Packer?
Yeah, I think we should be able to at least address those types of critiques or those types of misunderstandings. And they're not super hard to do once you kind of learn where they come from, why people say them. But in short, yes, you should be able to address them. Do you want me to, or?
Well, I guess we don't have time. We're winding down
fine.
here. But I would say, the quote your own planet thing, that's just a recycled trope that's not true, akin to telling Christians they believe in a giant sky daddy. It's at best a disrespectful trope, at worst a gross misrepresentation.
Mm-hmm.
Infinite regress of gods. Okay, that's the colloquialism for the counter mirror image of apotheosis forward, meaning infinite regress backwards, which is kind of like a fun thing that for now I think is chalked up to pioneer folklore that I believe Brigham Young would have believed. There's no official church doctrine on an infinite regress of gods, though there are people that believe many notes taken during the King Follett discourse could justify it or not justify it. It's kind of a fun thing to talk about. Chris Blythe is more of a Dr. Chris Blythe and Fair Mormon or fairlds.org have wonderful articles on that and are much more well prepared to argue this than I am. And there was a wonderful argument or debate on this between Hayden Carroll and Jacob Hansen on this channel that you can look up that was super interesting. And then multiple Christs, that's just a derivation of infinite regress.
Yeah.
So Mary Lou Hauer says shout out to Oak Norton and DJ Butler in the chat. Well, double shout out. Chris Bree says Jonathan Decker is much healthier therapist when it comes to religion. Give him a look sometime. He's a good man for real. Okay, you know Jonathan Decker?
I do not.
Okay, well, we're just going to look him up really fast. Then what's the next super chat? Says, I'm a Canadian from Ontario. I'm used to not being liked, says the real ascot. And then Kiori says, launching my LDS YouTube channel Sunday, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Oh, okay. We might have to check that out. Thank you, both of you guys, for your super chats and your participation in the video today. And then what was the name of the guy? We're just looking at really fast. Jonathan Decker. I wonder if he's any relation to anti-Mormon Ed Decker. That'd be really interesting.
That would be.
Here it is. I'm just pulling this up on the screen. Never seen this before, but says father, licensed therapist, and movie buff. I like him already. If he's a movie buff, right up there with you, Adam.
He'll get the Star Wars references.
Yeah, he'll understand all those references. Ally for the rights and freedoms of all people. YouTuber at Cinema Therapy. Oh, okay. And look, his first post. Look at that.
Nice.
There's your boy, Adam. There's your boy. And arrogance, too sure for themselves they are. A flaw more and more common in Jedi. Oh, man, I can't even do it, dude. I can't do it. Okay, so he passed the vibe check real fast. Now let's see if he has any therapists posts here. But no, it looks like it's all cinema stuff. So, okay, we'll have to check him out. I'll have to check it out. So anyway, all right. Maddy, if people want to follow you, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at The Sure Foundation and TikTok at The Sure Foundation. And that's kind of really all where I'm at right now. So hopefully YouTube in sometime in the future and see how it goes.
All right, cool. Sick. I'm digging. Well, thank you very much, everybody who has been participating today. If you are going to be watching this afterwards or didn't have a chance to super chat us or participate, please consider purchasing some merch in the Ward Radio merch store, specifically our War in Heaven veteran hats. It's a fun way to support the channel and have a good launching point for a conversation about the Book of Revelation. You can also purchase a shirt, one of the Ward Radio shirts or hats in the merch store. You've got the new white one. Adam, would you like to show off the new white Ward Radio hat?
Yeah, I don't know if I can turn it around.
Yeah, dude. Oh, you can take your headphones off. You look like a DJ, bro.
Right.
All right. So looks good with just a classic white t-shirt. I'm digging. So you guys can pick up that merch there, or if you want to contribute to the channel, you can send us a contribution both through Zelle or through Venmo. We're available there for a short time longer. Either way, it's been real and it's been fun, and it's been real fun for this and more. Please make sure that you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the